We have all seen the images by now. Buildings swaying side to side as people ran looking for cover. In a country where earthquakes are the norm, the 8.9 magnitude quake made Japanese history. And then, within minutes, a wall of water submerging portions of the country. This tsunami would do the most damage. Homes, cars, the entire landscape covered in water. Now, 2 months later, Japan is still trying to recover from the events of March 11th and the days following. With the radiation, contamination, aftershocks, and many still looking for loved ones, one can't help but wonder how Japan will ever bounce back.
Yeah,
Steve and Lisa Kennedy were getting ready to leave on vacation to New York City when they heard of the disaster in Japan.
Yeah, I think it was kind of surreal. You know, you're sitting there trying to get ready for vacation, trying to, you know, make some final last-minute plans, and then to have, you know, having all these little tasks you need to do, and then all of a sudden having this sort of bombshell just kind of felt like it just landed really heavily on my mind and just kind of took over everything.
Like everyone, the Kennedys were concerned for the people of Japan, but their fears were heightened as they thought about Steve's sister Anitia, who lives in the Asian country.
Well, didn't I have to sort of call you on the phone and say, Steve, did you hear about that tsunami? Yeah, it hit Sendai, Steve, like Sendai.
Right. Because my sister's been in Sendai teaching English for about 8 years now. Well, she's been in Japan and she's moved around a bit. But it finally clicked in that she was in the place that had been affected by the earthquake and the tsunami.
Keeping in contact through emails and web postings, Steve and Lisa were relieved to find out Anitia was safe. An English teacher at a school for adults, she experienced the devastation firsthand.
I mean, it's a country that's basically in post-traumatic stress disorder. The entire country has PTSD. It was hard at first. The first few days was devastating. But I guess for me, it was just seeing how well everyone worked together. There was no looting, there was no rioting. People waiting patiently for 8 hours to buy bread. Bread was gone within the first day. There was no bread, there was no rice. Even now, yogurt is hard to find.
Her apartment was destroyed. There was no heat and limited access to fresh food. She has attended the funeral of a student's child and watched others mourn the loss of loved ones. But Anitia was one of the lucky ones.
After the earthquake, I'd be walking down the street and strangers from everywhere would stop and ask me if they were okay because they were worried as a foreigner that I didn't have shelter, that I didn't have food. And I was one of the fortunate ones. I was able to go to my boss's house. Our house was okay. We had water the whole time.
But besides clean water, Anitia also turned to the sustaining power of her faith to help her get through this journey.
Faith really keeps you going in this kind of thing. If you didn't have that, I think there'd be a lot of hopelessness.
As Anitia gets used to her new reality in Japan, students here at Tyndale University College&Seminary have a special place in their hearts for the Asian country as well. Colin Owen, a worship coordinator here at the school, has been to Japan before and was planning on taking a group of students when the March 11th tsunami and earthquake happened.
It was a little disappointing at first when we found out that we wouldn't be going, but then we've been pretty excited about the opportunities here to spread awareness about the church in Japan.
In a country where less than 1% of the population are Christians, Colin and his team are hoping they can bring support and hope to this country in need.
So right now we're looking at organizing a church tour, and we're going to be going around different churches and just raising awareness, raising support. We'll hopefully get maybe a music day somewhere at some square, and just continue to raise the awareness of just the spiritual need coupled with the huge relief need that most people know about.
For the team here at Tyndale, that has also meant donating the money they personally raised for their trip to Japan, handing it over to the Overseas Missionary Fellowship as well as Crash Japan. While they are disappointed that they couldn't go ahead with their own mission trip, they are happy to support other agencies in their relief efforts.
It's not just about whether I can actually go and speak to somebody specifically. I'm just learning that I can support people in missions in so many other ways than just myself going and being there, but I can send money and I can send support and prayer.
For Max Aka, it was especially important to contribute to the relief efforts since he has a personal connection to Japan. Half Japanese himself, he has family in the quake-ravaged region and has been there before.
Watching the devastation was really mind-blowing for me. Just one day I woke up and all of a sudden the country was falling apart. And the day before it had been, one of the strongest countries in the world, and the next it was just gone. And you know, I started talking to my family, and apparently I have relatives in places that were hit really hard, like Sendai, and you know, people from my church, the Japanese church that I go to, the pastor's wife is in Tokyo, and just we're so connected to them.
Wow.
And it's that connection that keeps Max optimistic about the future of Japan, the years of recovery ahead, and ultimately God's plan for the Asian country.
Ai wa yuru ga nai, and it means his love goes on forever. And so that's a message that I hope that the people of Japan can receive openly, even in the face of this suffering, that God's love does go on forever.
And as for Anitia, her love for her adopted country will also go on forever. And despite what has happened in Japan, she's determined to stay, no matter what.
I mean, I miss Canada. I miss Canadian culture sometimes. I miss being able to go to Burger King. But Japan's just an amazing country. It's beautiful, and it's got amazing people. And I love my job. I love my home. What's left of it.
In Hamilton, Ontario, Hillary Rumball, 100 Huntley Street.
The destruction.